time for the best coverage of the top stories in sports. The Sports Wrap with Jason Page starts now.
Yes, it does. Thank you, Chad Erickson. Great to have you with us on this Thursday edition of the show. We'll be joined by our friend Dianna Russini from The Athletic. Get some thoughts with her. What's going on behind closed doors around the league? Let's talk some NFL to start the show. We got NBA to get to today. What a huge night in the association. We'll do that in 10 minutes. Contender, pretender, a whole bunch more. Sam Yarnell is back on this Thursday. 3 big games in the NFL this weekend, Sam. Monster matchups, titanic matchups, big. Washington and Philadelphia leads things off for the sake of this conversation. 7-3 Commanders, 7-2 Eagles. It's been a long time since these two teams met up with so much at stake and with both teams holding such good records. And I say it that way because I still am not sold on Philadelphia. I'm not necessarily sold on the Commanders either as a contender for anything beyond the division. Who needs it more, Sam Yarnell, the Commanders or the Eagles?
The Philadelphia Eagles need it more, Jason Page, and here's why. They're in the midst of a 5-game winning streak, and what have we seen with the Eagles under Nick Sirianni? It's that the most important thing to that team is momentum. Quite frankly, the next loss for that team could completely derail their season. I give you as the prime example last year when they started 10-1 and then melted down all the way into a playoff loss. Or did they? No, they didn't miss the playoffs. Yeah, they lost in the first round of the playoffs. Here's the thing. The Commanders have already shown us this season that they can bounce back from a tough loss with a big win and rattle off a few wins after a tough loss. I think that the Eagles are kind of a glass house right now. That's not to say that they can't make a deep run. They just have to do everything perfectly to do so.
Yeah, we're in agreement. I for all the reasons you stated, I'm very much with you on this one. The Eagles need it much more than the Commanders. And that seems weird because the Eagles have one less loss, but I still think this Commanders team may not realize how good it is yet. It's still young. You don't know what you don't know. There's a lot more pressure on this Eagles team to be successful. Ravens, Steelers. Lamar Jackson has not done well against the Steelers in the past. The Ravens are 7-3. The Steelers are 7-2. Sam Yarnell, who needs it more?
The Pittsburgh Steelers need it more, Jason Page, because here's why. The Ravens have shown us already this year they're gonna lose a few weird games. This is not a team at this point, in my mind, that's vying for the number 1 seed in the AFC, just because they've shown us that they're not going to be the perfect team, right? They're not going to be the Kansas City Chiefs, the Buffalo Bills that are blowing teams out. They will have blowouts, and sometimes they'll come against really good teams, like the Ravens game against the Buffalo Bills, but they'll also have scrappy wins that they eke out against bad teams and losses to completely, maybe even worse teams. I'm looking at you, Cleveland Browns. So I think that the Ravens have already established their prowess in the AFC over the years, right? We've seen them as playoff contenders 2 years in a row now, as viable Super Bowl contenders. The Steelers, not so much. This is a team that needs to escape that narrative of mediocrity that is going to continue to follow them around until they get a star player in there like they had with Ben Roethlisberger the last time this team wasn't mediocre year in and year out.
I don't know. I'm a little bit torn. I think both, I know this is a hedge. I think both of them really need it. I think Pittsburgh needs it to sort of solidify the fact that this Russell Wilson-led team, and I'm talking about from the offensive standpoint, and I am fascinated to see this Steelers offense and what it can do against such a mediocre pass defense like the Ravens have shown themselves to be, one of the worst in the league. I'm very anxious to see if the Steelers can capitalize on that. And conversely, again, Lamar Jackson, despite the fact that he's only played the Steelers 4 times, which seems weird considering how long he's been in the league because of sitting out games and injuries and things like that. He hasn't played against them as much. He has struggled in that sample size. Mike Tomlin has had the elixir to figure out whatever it is to be able to beat Lamar Jackson. So I think both of these teams need it, Sam.
Let me just say real quick that when we first started to think about this game and you told me that this is what we were going to do with this game, my thought was the same. To me, this ultimately feels like kind of a loser leaves town game because if you're the Steelers, right, and they lose this game, their defense is going to get dominated. If they lose this game, it'll be in a way where Derrick Henry, Lamar Jackson run all over that team, which disproves a lot of our theories about the Steeler defense. If the Ravens lose this game, however, it proves that they're going to continue to lose to weird teams that they shouldn't lose to, which will completely penalize them come playoff
I don't know if the Steelers are a weird team. They're 7-2. I mean, I think we've established by now this isn't just a weird team. It's a good football team. I don't know if it's an elite football team, but it's a good football team. Last but not least, Chiefs and Bills. 9-0. We know what Kansas City is so far. Buffalo has done well against them in the regular season, despite not being able to get over the hump against them in the postseason. Sam, who needs it more?
So the Bills need it more, but I will say this as a Bills fan, as the resident Bills fan on this program, I don't want the Bills to win this game. I think that you want the Chiefs to win this game. The pressure continues to mount for them, and the Bills have the revenge tour if these teams meet in the postseason, because quite frankly, that is always what the Chiefs have going into that postseason meeting. Jason mentioned it. The Bills are very, very good against the Chiefs in the regular season, but whenever the playoffs come around, the Chiefs always remember that regular season game and somehow come out and whomp the Bills. So I'm rooting for the Bills in this game, obviously. I hope they don't win in the back of my head, but they need it more, Jason.
I'm going to tell you something. I actually think it's Kansas City. I think it's Kansas City. I think the Chiefs need to put up. They're hearing the noise about the fact that they're undefeated, but ... I think there's some pressure on Kansas City in this game to not just win, but actually show us you can impress against one of the best teams in your conference and a team you could be facing come the postseason. We got some NBA to get to on the other side. We'll talk about a huge night in the league, some big performances to get to next. Dianna Russini from The Athletic coming up in 10 minutes. Ariel Helwani on the show tomorrow to preview Mike Tyson, Jake Paul from Dallas. I just say it out loud, Sam, and I still laugh. We're talking about a Mike Tyson fight in 2024. The first time I ever talked about Mike Tyson on a TV show of any kind was my high school television station in 1994. And we're still talking about him fighting 30 years later. It's just goofy.
I think the first time I talked about him ever on a TV show was when The Hangover came out, because obviously he's a prominent character. And I'm sure I did a movie review on it at some point.
That's great. Siskel and Ebert, man. There you go. Wild night in the NBA. And I know we should probably start with the guys that went for 50 burgers or something like that. But I don't know how you don't start and end the conversation with LeBron James. His third straight triple-double last night in a win against Memphis. He is the oldest player to ever record 3 triple-doubles in a row. At the age of 39, and he's damn near 40. Next month, he'll be 40. By the way, he broke his own record. Because the last person to have 3 triple-doubles and be the oldest player in the league to do it was LeBron at 34. I mean, I watched that game last night. I forced myself to watch a Wednesday night NBA game between the Grizzlies and the Lakers. And again, it's because of LeBron is playing in that game. And I know the opportunities to watch him, Sam, are getting fewer and farther between. I mean, you never know what year at this point could be his last. So when I watch him put that sort of effort out in a win, I think he played 36 minutes, still looked like the freshest guy on the floor by the time the game ends. It just blows your mind. It just does. And I can't say it enough.
I was trying to find it during your soliloquy, but I reference the stat all the time on the show. There's one player in NBA history that has played 22 seasons in the NBA, I believe. One other player, I think. Their highest scoring game in that 22nd season was 17 points. LeBron James scored 18 points in like the third game of the year. There's no question in my mind this man is the greatest basketball player of all time. I think that year 22, 3 straight triple doubles. I've seen it going around a bunch of Twitter, but like LeBron's numbers this year are comparable to 93 Jordan, which is crazy. I don't know what else to say, man. Like this guy, we will never see another athlete like LeBron James. It's crazy to me that we still consider him, Jason, as, you know, whenever you see these rankings of the top 100 athletes or whatever, he's always in the top, 15 at worst. And he is in his 22nd season playing his professional sport. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it is. Giannis Antetokounmpo goes for 59 in an overtime win last night against the Pistons, who have been damn entertaining early on this year, by the way. 59. How about this number? First quarter, Giannis Antetokounmpo had 22 points. The rest of his team had 2. That is not a winning formula in Milwaukee for Doc Rivers.
Yeah, I was going to say, you mentioned that whole first quarter for the Bucks. That's all great. The Pistons outscored them in the first quarter. They were losing at the end of the first quarter of this game. I don't know what we're going to do with the Milwaukee Bucks, man. No. It was such a mistake. You and I are going to look back on this for years to come, but the firing of Adrian Griffin last year was the biggest mistake that franchise could have made, and I wholeheartedly believe set them back multiple seasons.
Well, it all depends on who you talk to, because I've talked to a couple of people around the league who say that it's not an Adrian Griffin problem, it's a roster composition issue, and sort of the way they've made up this thing. You've still got Chris Middleton, who's been battling ankle injuries. Brook Lopez does his best. They still struggle on the defensive end. You can attack them from a defensive standpoint, and they really struggle. Damian Lillard defensively. Yeah, what are you getting out of him at this stage in his career? They could score, and they could put up some points, but they're going to struggle to stop teams. How about the effort from Victor Wembanyama last night? His first 50-burger. How about it? Spurs win. Wemby goes off for 50 on a day where we find out that, by the way, Greg Popovich had suffered a mild stroke, which is why he's been out of action. The good news is he is expected back on the bench. Get well soon, Pop. But Wemby going for 50. I watched the highlights last night. He's shooting balls from 3-4 feet behind the three-point line, doing things that guys his size are not supposed to do, Sam.
Yeah, the WemVP campaign might be back on just because of how well this kid's been playing defense, and to come out and then do that while being the betting favorite to win Defensive Player of the Year right now, he's gonna find himself in the MVP conversation. I will say this was against the Washington Wizards, who didn't look bad in this game. Jordan Poole dropped 42, Jason. We got to mention that. I'm throwing that in there. And it wasn't inefficient either. I think 22 shots, something like that. Like, Jordan Poole actually looked good for once. How about that?
The Knicks lost to the Bulls. Big night for Karl Anthony Towns in a losing effort, but the Knicks lose late. Jalen Brunson shot going in and out at the buzzer. 46 for Karl Anthony Towns with 10 rebounds in the loss for the Knicks. Knicks are still going to be fine, I think. Just a matter of time before that whole thing comes together over there.
Yeah, nothing like playing Tibbs ball. What? You had the entire starting five over 34 minutes of run each. I mean, really, it doesn't get better. Story of this game was OG Anunoby almost running over Anne Hathaway and her kid. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend going and finding the video. He was diving after a loose ball, and Anne Hathaway's kid was just sitting there going...
I did not see that.
Was about to barrel in.
Oh, that's great. Wow, I did not. I'm kind of bummed out. I'm gonna have to go and see that. I saw highlights of the game. I didn't manage to see that. We got to talk some NFL coming up here in a couple of minutes. Get into what's going on behind closed doors around the league. Dianna Russini does a great job. Chat with her. Get some thoughts around the National Football League. We've still got Contender Pretender to come as well. Don't go anywhere. Lots more Sports Wrap on this Thursday. This Thursday edition of Sports Wrap continues. Let's get back to the NFL conversation. I promised a Dianna Russini, and a Dianna Russini I shall deliver from The Athletic. Podcast host as well. It's fun to talk about what's going on the field, but I always wonder about what's going on behind closed doors around the league right now, especially at this point in the season, Dianna, where teams are figuring out what they are, who their personality is, what has to change, what doesn't change. You're in the Northeast, so, and I'll be a little gratuitous here. I'm a Giants fan. You see the helmet behind me, which I just got over the weekend. So talk to me about sort of the mindset with that organization where you start to realize, I said they were the biggest winner of last weekend in losing because they went from basically being 10th in the draft to the second overall pick, where you could potentially start to think about, okay, we might be able to get one of the top 2 or 3 quarterbacks in this draft if we decide to go that route. Are the Giants in tank mode yet?
Yeah, it's a great point that you make about where we're at in the season. Let's start there, big picture around the league. Everyone is having these conversations of, okay, we know what we are. What's the plan here? Are we sticking with the quarterback on our roster? Are we sticking with the head coach that we have on this team? Are we sticking with the general manager? Specifically to your New York Giants, general manager Joe Schoen and head coach Brian Daboll are allegedly safe based on what owner John Mara said after just 6 weeks of what we saw. Apparently 6 games was enough for ownership to say, no, these are the guys for next year. We believe in them. We're not going to fire anyone in season. Unfortunately, as we've seen in the past with John Mara, he's done this, right? He did this with Ben McAdoo. He was fired. He did this with Joe Judge. He was fired. So it's the vote of confidence that quickly turns into the kiss of death with New York. So look, with that in mind, you have to try to look at this organization as a whole and let's just believe John Mara. I can tell you around the league, nobody thinks that Brian Daboll and Joe Schoen are in fact safe. So while I understand your point of them losing to the Carolina Panthers in Germany was good for them in terms of draft position, it's not good for those 2 individuals specifically, knowing that they need to put out a product that is watchable, that appears to be competitive. And, I do believe Daboll does a good job with these players in getting them to compete. And you have to hope for his sake that they continue to do that. But I do expect if there's a drop off, if we see significant change in and we've seen it before, especially with the Giants, we get to December and it's like, watching some Bergen County High School varsity team. So when things aren't going well. Yeah. When they're going well, they're still playing hard, and then of course you got that Saquon thing kind of looming over them. Yeah. It's we talk about it a lot, but it's a real thing. It's not just a fan thing. Where I can tell you in that building, it's not great since all of that was obviously captured on Hard Knocks. So here we are. We got the Daniel Jones situation. The Giants are on a bye. So what are they going to do? They got this injury guarantee for Daniel Jones for 2025. So essentially, if he gets hurt over the next few weeks here, as we wrap up the season, we know the Giants are dead in the water. We know that Daniel Jones's future in New York is over. They're going to have to pay him this. So the Giants have to make a decision. Do they bench him now and go to Drew Lock and get through an ugly few weeks here, because we don't really know where Drew Lock is at in terms of his quarterback play? Or do you ride with Daniel Jones in hopes that at least it's watchable and functioning?
Look, to me, Dianna, if you're gonna suck. If you're gonna do it, anything worth doing is worth doing right.
Well, here's what's wild. My co-host Chase Daniel, who was a veteran backup quarterback for 14 years, he said that he thinks they should stick with Daniel Jones because he believes in sucking. He's like, I'm afraid Drew Lock is going to come in and be good.
Yeah.
Right? So the Giants have to make this decision. I could see a world where they actually stick with Daniel Jones. He's tough. He's not perfect. He's not great, but he's a tough guy.
Yeah, I agree.
And they've got a lot of, they obviously they have more division games coming up here. And they may not want to mess with that just yet. I could see them changing. It just may not be right now.
Dianna Russini and Chase Daniel, by the way, host the Scoop City podcast. You should go and check that out wherever you get your podcasts. Can I ask you, from people you talk to around the league, what was the level of shock on the Shane Waldron firing, and sort of, again, this dysfunction around how this organization handles quarterbacks, and in this case, the top quarterback and the top pick in the draft?
You know what always hurts quarterbacks that aren't progressing? The other quarterbacks who are progressing. We even going back to last year, Bryce Young was struggling. It was obvious, but it definitely did not help the situation when we saw CJ Stroud playing lights out. And so the Bears are seeing this growth. Caleb's constantly compared to what Washington's doing with Jaden Daniels, and that's fair. But to me, the example that they should be looking at that is a dagger is what Bo Nix is doing in Denver with Sean Payton, right? Bo Nix wasn't coming into this draft with all these high regards and high marks and teams, clamoring to get him. It was a Sean Payton vision, and we're seeing this vision come to fruition every week, and he's getting better every week. I spent time with Denver in the during training camp. And I was really impressed with him. And now every week we're seeing he's getting better and better. They almost beat the Chiefs, if not, for the way, a special teams error, I guess we can call it. So look, I think for Chicago, it wasn't shocking. There's been tons of smoke. And look, this team operates like they have a defensive minded head coach. It looks like the defensive coordinator is running the team. I think Matt Eberflus is actually a great coach on the defensive side of the ball. I just don't think he's awesome in this head coaching role as he is hanging on here and trying. And we see this too, and we're going to see it, by the way, over the next few weeks where, as soon as the head coach feels a little bit of that fire under their seat, if not blazing, roaring flames in Chicago, you got to make that move at the coordinator position. Is Thomas Brown the answer? I don't think so either. I think the Bears are in a really tough spot. And, I would not be surprised if they clear house here at the end of the season.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I'm going too. And I feel like that's what they should have done when they decided to go away from Justin Fields. When you made the decision it was going to be Caleb Williams, you should have brought in a quarterback-minded head coach.
Jay, we'll talk about this again, I'm sure.
I got to run. Real quick. I'm going to hold you for one more. Don't worry, I'm going to have you out. Real quick, Dianna Russini hanging out with us on the show. Sports Wrap continues on this Thursday. A couple more questions for her. Don't go anywhere. All right, continuing the conversation with Dianna Russini, host of the Scoop City podcast. Catch her with Chase Daniel. Go and subscribe if you haven't done so already. We'll post a link in our Substack as well to that. our new Substack. Sam Yarnell has joined the chat. Sam, you had a question. I'll let you lead it off, Sam, because you wanted to ask a couple of things. Go ahead.
Yeah, Dianna, obviously at the beginning of the week, there was the whole fallout in Dallas with the Micah Parsons quote with regard to Mike McCarthy's job security. I'm just wondering, have you heard anything from that Cowboys locker room regarding kind of fallout around that quote, what the relationship has turned into between Micah and the team?
Yeah, I think Dallas is trying to do their absolute best to keep everything buttoned up there, but I think we can all see that it's been falling apart as they haven't produced at all on the field, especially the last few weeks, and now with Dak out. And look, Micah is really respected in that building in general for what he's able to do, but he comes with a lot. He does consistently. I can tell you from people that are close with Coach McCarthy, they've shared with me that they're good in terms of that relationship between Micah and Coach McCarthy. Like, they've had a conversation about it. They've cleared the air. I do think there was a little bit of that taken out of context in some regard. And we've seen Micah talk about it on his own podcast to explain where he was coming from on it. But this is what happens when teams are losing, right? Like, you're not hearing about this kind of stuff in Detroit. You're not hearing about this stuff in Kansas City. Are things like that happening? Maybe. Not like this, though, because when you're winning, people tend to get along a little bit better, and everyone kind of can see where this is headed. And it's been a really hard year. Some of it on Jerry for not filling some of these roster holes, especially on defense. The running game has not been awesome. When they had an opportunity, to bring on Derrick Henry. I think that's how we'll look back at this year, of the moves they didn't make compared to really the moves they did make. Because I think that's really what's going to wind up costing Mike McCarthy his job here at the end of the season.
Dianna, when you talk to people around the league about what Kansas City is doing right now at 9-0, and there is still this feeling around the league that while they're undefeated, they may not even be the best team in the league right now. When you look at how some of these other teams like Baltimore and Detroit are obviously playing, what's the feeling from people you talk to around the league about what? Again, we're at that point in the season where we talk about what you are, about what the Chiefs are.
The defense is going to continue to carry this team. I spoke with someone this morning, actually, who's got them on their schedule coming up here soon. And, what Steve Spagnuolo has done over the last few seasons, and really what that front office has also done, Brett Veach and Andy Reid, because, I think that's something a lot of people don't realize, that, and I'm not taking credit away from Brett Veach. He's fantastic. But Andy has his hands on everything. Like, no player's walking that building without Andy Reid's approval. He was like that in Philly. Anywhere he's been, that's kind of what comes with him. And when they're winning, it's a great quality because he has control. But in that regard, they've turned this defense over 3 separate times, whether that means, through the trade, through drafting, through free agency. They have figured out ways to continually give Spagnuolo guys, players, because at times, granted, they've got the best quarterback in football right now. They start off slow, and they know that. When I spoke to Mahomes in the offseason, he said the thing that keeps him up at night, which is hard to believe that anything would keep him up at night except his children, is the idea that they won that Super Bowl again because of the defense. He's like, we have to be the ones this year. And I don't think we've really seen this offense come together yet. We've seen pieces of it in snippets, but I have a feeling this second half of the season, this is where it's going to emerge. And really now the team I think about that has that sort of Kansas City offensive formula where the quarterback's fantastic and he doesn't have too much around him, because now he does. It's really Buffalo, right? Look what Josh Allen's doing. It looks a lot like what Kansas City's been doing the last few years with whoever these guys are in terms of his weapons. No disrespect to those guys, but they're young, they're up and coming. Patrick now obviously has some weapons now to help him. And Travis is just getting better as the season goes, which we all predicted, right? I don't think anyone here was like, Travis Kelce's washed, he's done. No, this is just what he does.
Real quick, is Spags, we always talk about these head coaching cycles every offseason. Is Spags ever going to take one of these jobs? Because it feels like he's been the best D coordinator in the league for 5 years now, but he's never in the conversation.
I bring it up every year, too, with people that are in the hiring processes. And look, I think it's okay to be a really good coordinator, right? And I think that's the fight here and the push and pull that you see around the league. Robert Saleh, I mean, he's a really good example. He comes with a lot of things, but he's a really good coordinator. He runs a good defense. It's okay that you're not a great head coach. It's okay that you're not a great head coach in a huge market. Obviously, Spags has had his, trials with that. But I think he's also really happy there. That's always been my takeaway because I've talked to him. He wants to be a head coach, of course, but I don't get this feeling where he is just banging on the desk of Andy Reid going, help me get a job, help me get a job. Things are good if you're in Kansas City for everybody.
Real quick, we only got about 45 seconds. I'll ask this one, Sam. Bengals, are they dead?
I never count the Bengals dead when you got Joe Burrow. I don't think they've done enough on defense. That's always going to be the holdup. I just talked to you about how Brett Veach and Andy Reid have revamped this Chiefs defense since 2021. We've seen 3 different versions of it. Go look at the Bengals defense. They haven't revamped at all. They haven't done anything to make them better. They rely on Joe Burrow too much, and I think in the end that's going to catch up to them. But for now, here we are, just mid-November. I'm not counting them out. No way. They lead in like every category. Yeah. They just have to just finish, and I think we'll still be talking about Cincy late December.
I hope so, because Joe Burrow's fantastic, and I love watching him play the game.
Me too.
We're out of time. Never Enough with Dianna Russini with The Athletic, who does a terrific job. Check out the Scoop City podcast with her and Chase Daniel. Dianna, I always appreciate you. We'll talk soon.
Of course. Thanks, Jay. Thanks, Sam.
We're coming back. More Sports Wrap on a Thursday. Welcome back to this Thursday edition of Sports Wrap. We'll wrap things up in 10 minutes with odds and ends. Something tells me we might talk about Thursday Night Football in there. Something to consider, Sam Yarnell. For your consideration, I give you Diamond Sports Group, which is Fanduel Sports. It was Bally Sports. So Amazon Prime Video has reached a deal with Diamond Sports that will see 16 regional sports networks offered on Prime Video. Now, that sounds great if you're a sports fan and you already have Prime Video. Here's the thing. Yes, it's going to be on Prime Video, but you're going to have to pay for it. You're going to have to pay something more than what you're already paying for your Prime Video. So as part of the deal, CNBC had some great reporting on this. Diamond's networks will be available as an add-on subscription to Prime customers living within each team's designated geographic area. Now, further details on pricing and all of that will be announced at a later date. Earlier this week, Diamond also announced it would offer games on an a la carte basis. However, I won't digress. So, Diamond announced it's going to offer games on an a la carte basis, $6.99 per game, beginning December 5th, which will not require a subscription. Both Prime Video and FanDuel Sports Network app will offer the single games, according to a person familiar with the deal that's in place. Here's what I'm trying to figure out, Sam. Who's paying $6.99 to watch one game? Like, that's nuts to me. Like, maybe if there's like one huge marquee game and it's not, but here's the thing, if something's a marquee game, it's going to be on TNT or TBS or ESPN or whatever your network of choice is. So I don't know what anybody's getting paying $6.99 per game to watch their team. Like, I don't understand. I don't understand how they think this model is going to be successful. And I hope it is, but I don't see it.
Yeah, so let's just do this with an NBA team, for instance, sure. Right? But NHL would be the same amount of games in a season. $6.99. Well, let's see, 82. We'll say each team gets on average, what would you say, 7 to 10 primetime games a year? Let's be generous, call it 10 per team. So every team is getting $6.99 by
He's got
72 games.
Abacus out.
Right?
Yeah.
That's $503.28 a season. if you're paying by the game.
Now they might have a season. They might have a per. I'm sure.
I'm sure they do. But my point is this: I bet you that the season-long package is like $450.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is this: there may be certain circumstances for people who, I don't know, generally have to work late, but sometimes don't. And on those nights want to catch an occasional game. Or maybe are usually out somewhere that has the game on when the game is on. But those weekend afternoon matinees you are always home for, so you want to watch just those. I understand it from a theoretical perspective, but realistically, this is never something that will work out. Everything is going to get way too complicated, and someone's going to figure out how to cheat the system also.
Yeah, I cannot for the life. And look, I give the folks at Diamond Sports a lot of credit in this regard. They're trying to do everything they can to save that company. Got to remember, there's a lot of people that work for these companies. There's a lot involved with these regional sports networks, and there's 21 of them, 16, 20 networks, whatever it is that Diamond Sports Networks owns. And they could just as easily say, you know what? We're throwing in the towel on this. Direct-to-consumer is coming. The leagues are going to take over these things eventually anyway. We're done. We're washing our hands of it. You're all out of work. We'll send you your severance payments. Bye-bye. They're doing everything they can. Granted, they're trying to also save their own hides on the business side of this. But at least they're trying to do something to compete with the ever-changing landscape that we're seeing in media today and how people take in games. I think they're just caught up in the transition between traditional cable models and the regional sports networks we've all grown up watching. Yes, MSG, in your case, Masson, all these different networks around the country. Root Sports, we're on in Seattle. We love you guys. Now there's Sportsnet in Pittsburgh. We're on there. They're trying to compete for so long with that. And now that model is shifting and the paradigm shift is taking place. And they're just trying to figure out a way to survive to get to the other side of that. I give them credit for trying. I just don't know if this is the answer.
Yeah, so this is you hit the nail right on the head there for me. And it's that they're caught in the middle of this cord-cutting movement. Mm-hmm. But that got me to thinking, Jason, if we take a step back and look back at that movement, what we thought it once was compared to what it is now, it's come to a grinding halt. It feels like we're at a very stagnant place in media, which to the consumer, I'll be frank, seems like they're having to spend a lot more money, which to the producer seems like the perfect place for them to make it come to a grinding halt.
Yeah. And I'll say this, as somebody who owns my own media company and is putting out a show on television every day, and a lot of those regional sports networks, I'm caught up in it too. We're trying to figure out different ways to distribute this show and others like it in future programming that isn't on the traditional TV model, because that model's going away. Whether anybody likes it or not, that traditional TV model's going away. Odds and ends are right around the corner. Stick with us. All right, just about time to say goodbye on this Thursday edition of the show. Tomorrow, Ariel Helwani, all things combat sports. He is like one of the kings in the broadcast and streaming world. He'll be part of the Mike Tyson, Jake Paul Netflix coverage on Friday night as well. By the way, Sam, are you going to watch that fight, Sam? Really? You're not going to watch Mike Tyson, Jake Paul on Friday night? What else do you have to do? You're going to say work.
No, okay. I don't. But I'm sure there's some college football game that'll be better than that.
But it's Mike Tyson, Jake Paul. I mean, just for the spectacle of it. It'll be on at it'll be on at 11 o'clock. You're not doing anything else.
You going to share your Netflix login with me? Then maybe I'll watch it.
Netflix, for the purposes of this conversation, no, Sam, I will not share I am not going to steal. I'm not going to allow you to steal Netflix. Wink, wink.
That's how I got kicked off my old one. My mom logged in too many places. They said, bye.
Time for some odds. And the ends of Sam's Netflix account, apparently. All right, Sam. Odds and ends. We did not mention in the second segment of the show when we did NBA, and it would be a dereliction of our duty if we did not mention the fact that the Cleveland Cavaliers are 13-0 to start this NBA season. I mean, I apologize to folks in Cleveland that we did not mention the fact that your team is 13-0. But now I'm done talking about it, because I think the bigger story is the fact that Philadelphia lost again in that game. And this time they lost without Joel Embiid, because Joel Embiid doesn't play back-to-backs. Even when the game on Tuesday night was his first of the season. You can't play back-to-back nights when your first game of the season is... Philadelphia is a mess, dude. That situation is an absolute... I mean, boy, what a disaster. But by the way, Cleveland's 13-0.
And no Tyrese Maxey for weeks, right? So yeah, this will be interesting. This will be fun. It'll be fun to see the downfall of Philadelphia.
Yeah. By the way, Jared McCain, the rookie for the Sixers in that game, 34 points, 10 assists on 12 of 26 shooting, and the nicest fingernails in all of the NBA.
I was going to say, it does not matter what color your fingernails are when you're making shots like he made last night. Good job for the rookie out of Duke.
Yep, he's a great follow on Instagram as well. Odds and ends, odds on the... What? It's true. He's a great follow.
Weird.
What? He's a great follow on Instagram. Why is that so terrible? He's actually I think he's like the first NBA player ever to get an endorsement deal with like a women's cosmetics line. It's really cool. Really cool. Go and follow him on Instagram. Yeah, he is definitely breaking some norms. We'll definitely just say it that way. Commanders Eagles Thursday Night Football gets Week 11 in the NFL started. Sam Yarnell. It is Commanders plus 3.5 in Philadelphia. Plus 168 on the money line for the Commanders. Minus 200 for the Eagles. The total is 49.5.
I don't know, man.
What the? Come on! You've had all day to think about this.
It feels like if the Commanders win, the game goes under, because the only way the Commanders win is the Eagles defense falters and the Eagles offense can't get going. Now, I'm not ruling out either of those things from happening, and I think at the end of the day, your best look might be like a teaser play with Commanders and the under. So like tease Commanders to plus 9.5 and under 55.5. Like I'd like to see the price on that, probably get about even money. That's kind of the only place I'd go on this, Jason. I don't know. This game is going to be a good game, but from a betting perspective, I cannot figure out how to bet this game.
Wow. That's your Prince of Picks, ladies and gentlemen. That's all he's got for you.
I'll tell you when I don't have the picks.
I'll go Jaden Daniels to record 25 plus rushing yards in each half, plus 360.
Yeah,
because I could see him running. I could see him running for his life, and having to make plays with his legs in this game. I kind of like that one.
I'll make it easier, because now you got my mind open to something I didn't even think about. Give me just Jaden Daniels 50-plus rushing yards at plus 124. I still get my plus money, and 25 in each half. Sure, he'll get to 50, but just 50 straight up. What if he goes 29 and whatever, 21? I'll still win. So give me 50-plus rushing yards, Jaden Daniels plus 124 right now. I like that.
Because I'm not keen on any of this game the 3.5 or the total.
I'm telling you, it's a bad game to bet. It's going to be a great game to watch. I actually think that we'll be in for a great Thursday night game tonight.
Your lips to Al Michaels' ears.
Game to bet.
Yeah, your lips to Al Michaels' ears. We got to give him all the good games. You never know how many games Al Michaels has left, so I'm rooting for a good game there. Not saying he's like gonna leave this.
Oh my God!
I'm not saying he's dying. I'm just saying that he's twilight of his career. We just saw Bob Costas retire. You never know. Gotta enjoy these treasures while we have them. Oh, we're out of time. Oh, I'm sorry. We gotta go. Thanks, Dianna Russini. Thanks to you, Sam. Ariel Hawani on Friday's show. Robert Littal as well. We'll see you then.